Reptiles are really cool, and I want to teach everybody a little bit about them. So you might be wondering, if I'm teaching you guys about reptiles, why on earth do I have a parrot with me? Well, one of my favorite fun facts about birds in general is that they are actually part of the reptile family. So, as confusing as that may be, and as untrue as that may sound, you need to stay up here. Don't do that, I'm going to put you back there, okay? Okay, you be a good girl. She likes to climb down all over the stage. Okay, we're not going to do this right now. She'll stick her back here. Alright, so birds are actually in the same family, or they are actually dinosaurs. So they're part of the same family of animals that crocodilians are in, which is super cool. So these guys are literally dinosaurs, right? They've lost the teeth and the tails, but they've got the feathers, they've got the scales, feet, right? If you look at a bird's foot, it looks like a dinosaur foot. Thank you, Katie. Yeah, no, she can't. So parrots are by far one of the most intelligent members of the bird/reptile family. These guys have the ability to mimic human speech, as well as perform a lot of really complex problem-solving abilities. What makes them different from virtually all the other reptiles is, of course, the fact that they can fly. And since the pterosaurs went extinct millions and millions of years ago, these are the only reptiles to have, powered flight, to be able to lift themselves up off the ground. So I'm going to move on from birds for a little bit and talk to you guys about something you might be a bit more familiar with as a reptile. I have here with me a snake. This guy is a corn snake by the name of Mary. She is an albino corn snake. So if you find them in your backyard, they're probably not going to look like this. Thank you, Katie. She's very needy. She's also a sweetheart. So corn snakes are one of the most common snakes found all the way throughout North America. They can be found as far south as Mexico and as far north as Canada. And these guys are part of a group of snakes called coluberids. Most of them are non-venomous, just like Mary here is. And they are characterized by not really being able to fit into any of the other groups of snakes because they're a little weird. Corn snakes like Mary here will eat a wide variety of different foods from a wide variety of different habitats. Everything from rodents to small fish. Thank you, Katie. Just trying to get my attention. And what makes snakes really unique is, of course, the fact that they do not have legs, like nearly all the other reptiles do. These guys are also obligate carnivores, and what that means is that they have to eat meat, and that's the only thing they eat. So, corn snakes in captivity, like Mary here, will be fed mostly things like small mice, right? She gets 2 mice once a week, and you might be thinking to yourself, once a week, that doesn't sound like very much food at all. And you're right. Snakes have a very slow metabolism. You see, nearly all reptiles are cold-blooded, and that means they get their body heat from their environment. And so they don't need to expend the energy that it takes for warm-blooded animals to maintain a warm body temperature. And because of that, they get to make their calories last a little longer. So these guys don't even eat nearly as often as, like a person would, right? We have to eat several times a day. Well, most of us. I tend to only eat once, but it's a big meal, so I count it. Something else really interesting about snakes is that they don't have any eyelids. No eyelids at all, and instead of eyelids, they have a very specialized transparent scale over their eyes called an eye cap. So they don't blink their eyes, they sleep with their eyes open, and they shed that eye cap along with the rest of their skin every single time they shed, which is really, really interesting. Now, contrary to popular belief, snakes do not unhinge their jaw to swallow large prey items. Their jaw instead can obviously open very wide, and it actually is not connected in the front. It'll actually split apart, get really, really big, and allow those big prey items to enter. And in fact, they even have, if you look underneath their mouth, on their chin, these little lines here, those are gussets, places where there's extra stretchy skin for them to allow their jaw to spread apart in order to accommodate those large meals. They also don't have any external ears, guys. These guys cannot hear in the traditional sense, right? They mostly hear if they're feeling vibration in the ground, which is pretty unique. And a lot of people think that they're just, a head with a long tail, but really, their tail only starts about here, right? The rest of their body is just all body, with no legs to speak of, because, let's be honest, they're too good for it. So I'm going to bring out something now that looks a lot like a snake, but it's not. So this here is a European glass lizard, right? How many of you guys knew that lizards sometimes came without legs? We got a couple cool people in the audience. So these guys, just like the name implies, legless lizard, these guys have no legs. And what makes them a lizard is, of course, what they're related to and how they behave and their body composition and things like that. But some of the easiest ways for us to tell from the outside looking in is to notice that, unlike snakes, these guys do have eyelids. Right? If you take a good look at his face, you can see how different it is. In addition to eyelids right behind his eyes, he also has these little holes on the side of his head. Those are external ears, so he can hear me talking. Now, that's not to say he can understand what I'm saying, but they can hear a lot better than snakes can. They can see a lot better than snakes can. And they don't have that famous forked tongue either. These guys' tongues are very flat and round. They still flick them up and down to help them smell their surroundings. Now, unlike snakes, these guys don't swallow their prey whole. They'll actually chew it. And these guys are obligate carnivores just like snakes, but they have to eat much more often. And so he is actually about half tail. Like the snake I showed you, the tail was only about this much. And this guy, the tail starts here. So he's got a lot of tail to work with. And his body's not quite as flexible as a snake's body. And I'm sure you all know, and you've all seen, some lizards, when they're scared, their tail falls off. Right? And it wriggles around. These guys do the same thing, and they can regrow their tail just like that. But because their tail takes up about half of their body length, it can be much more confusing to predators on which is the real animal. And that gives these guys the perfect opportunity to escape. So legless lizards are actually specialized to hunt other lizards, right? And so that means they're very effective predators. These guys are really, really good at going down into holes or crevices in logs and chasing the lizards that live there. But that puts them in a precarious situation to get cornered by predators. So in addition to that breakaway tail, they also have, if you guys look close, they have this line across the side of their body, right? And just like the snake's chin, this line is another gusset that has more skin in it. They can actually inflate their bodies to get just a little bit bigger and wedge themselves into those crevices so that predators can't pull them out. Really, really cool stuff. One of the animals that these guys, they eat a wide variety of different animals, insects, lizards, snakes, And speaking of insects, I have quite a neat insect right here for you guys. I gotta have this for a second. And I want you guys to see the largest cockroach species on Earth. So this here is a Madagascar hissing cockroach. They're named that because, of course, they hiss, right? The hiss is a defense mechanism. So if you go to pick one up and it's not used to being picked up, it can hiss at you. And that is usually enough to make most people drop, right? I don't know about you, but if I go to pick up a random bug and it screams at me, I'm probably just going to drop it, right? I'll pick it up again, but I'm probably going to drop it the first time. And in doing that, that gives these animals an opportunity to escape. That is their primary defense mechanism. That is how they protect themselves. But these guys, no matter how scary they are or how gross you think they are, they're incredibly vital for our ecosystem. You see, these guys eat all the dead. So rude. So rude. These guys eat all the dead and decaying plant material on the bottom of the forests and the jungles, and they turn it into a very nutrient-rich compost. We're just going to ignore her now and hope that she stops. She will not. These guys will turn that into a very rich compost that then allows for the backbone of those forest and jungle ecosystems, those massive, super tall, super strong trees to grow and form that ecosystem. So these guys are incredibly important. Without them, we wouldn't have those huge forests and dense jungles that we do all over the world. So when you see these guys in your home, it's good to it's good to get them out of your house, but understand that they're there for a reason, and they're incredibly prolific and versatile for that reason. They're super cool. I like cockroaches. Alright, so our last animal here is a python. This here's a ball python. They're one of the smaller species of python. But it doesn't make them any less impressive. These guys do exactly the same things as those big famous Burmese pythons that we all hear about, just on a little bit of a smaller scale. They're still incredibly strong and incredibly powerful. They're ambush predators. They like to hide in a hole and wait for something to cross their path. And they're non-native. So just like those large, scary pythons, these guys have the potential to create a massive population of them here in the Florida Everglades. Which is not so great for our ecosystem, because these guys don't eat things that normally don't have to worry about snakes. Specifically, our young crocodiles. Right? We have American crocodiles in the Everglades, and they were critically endangered for a long time. Now they're on the road to recovery, and snakes like this make that road to recovery much more difficult than it really has to be. So if you guys, have a pet snake at home that just happens to be a non-native species, you need to take extra care to make sure that that animal does not get loose. Because once they get loose, there's not much you can do about it. Does anybody have any questions about any of the animals you showed, or reptiles in general? No? Yeah. Hold on 1 second. He raised his hand. No, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. The lizard. So the legless lizard is an obligate carnivore, just like the snakes, and they eat a wide variety of different things. So they'll eat everything from insects all the way up to their preferred food, which is lizards, and they'll even eat smaller snakes, and things like mice and rats and all kinds of things. They're really, really versatile, and they're are a really, really effective predator where they're native to. Does anybody else have any questions? No?
Which snakes are poisonous?
Huh?
Which snakes are poisonous?
Poison.
No. None of these snakes are poisonous. All the snakes we have here at Jungle Island are non-venomous. We actually have to go through a lot of interesting channels in order to keep venomous snakes because they are very hazardous. They are very hazardous to work with.
Do it.
I'll give you.
How do you tell there's not venomous?
How do you tell if they're venomous or they're not? So, it can be very difficult because each individual species has its own tells. Right? Really the best way is to just know the species. So you can identify the species rather than the traits that they have. Here in the United States, a good rule of thumb that people generally tell you is look for that triangular shaped head. That's really only good here in the Americas, where most of the venomous snakes we have are vipers, where vipers have that really pronounced triangular shaped head. Snakes like cobras, and for example, one that we have here in the United States, the coral snake, is part of the cobra family, and they do not have that triangular shaped head. Thankfully, though, we do have a rule for spotting those guys. Red touch yellow, kill a fellow. Red touch black, friend of Jack. Red's touching yellow, it could be a coral snake, and they are one of the most venomous snakes we have here in America. So do keep an eye out, keep your distance. Those things. So, yeah. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming and listening to me.